step immediately into a quiet, meticulously organized room. The air in here is fresh.
Yeah, it's deliberately circulated from an open window, just, carrying away any staleness.
Right. And sunlight falls across the floor at a really specific, intentional angle. Every single object has a designated place.
There's a profound, almost palpable sense of calm.
Exactly.
Wow.
You aren't just standing in a regular room here. You are in a space that has been specifically engineered to heal you.
You can really feel the difference the moment you cross the threshold. I mean, the layout, the lighting, the airflow, none of it is accidental.
It's a completely immersive, active environment. So today, we are stepping directly into the world of Florence Nightingale.
And it's such a fascinating worldview to explore.
It really is. We are entering a timeless space where compassion is not just, a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's a highly organized science.
Right. Our mission here is to explore how this specific worldview fundamentally redefines what it means to care for others.
Because good intentions are incredibly common, right? We all mean well.
Oh, definitely. But here, we're looking at how you take those good intentions and transform them into undeniable truth and into measurable action.
So let's start with the very architecture of care in this world. Because there's a core belief here that just completely shifts how we interact with physical spaces.
Yeah, the belief that the environment itself has a powerful, direct, and constant effect on human health.
Right. In a lot of places, people view a room as just a passive backdrop to life, like it's just four walls where things happen to occur.
But here, the environment is an active participant in survival. Clean air, clean water, clean spaces, they are vital components.
It's like the room itself is a kind of invisible medicine.
I love that phrase, invisible medicine.
Because usually when we think of care, we think of something one person hands to another.
Right.
A doctor handing you a pill or a nurse putting on a bandage.
Yeah, a direct physical transaction.
Exactly. But in this world, opening a window to let in fresh air is treated with the exact same reverence as bandaging a wound.
Which is such a powerful shift in perspective. And when you treat the environment with that level of respect, you end up challenging a very quiet assumption that, honestly, most of us hold without even realizing it.
Which assumption is that?
The idea that science is cold and calculated while art is, warm and emotional.
Oh, right. We usually separate them entirely. Like the scientist is in a sterile lab and the artist is painting with their feelings in a studio.
Exactly. But in this world, those two concepts are totally fused together. Care is explicitly believed to be both an art and a science.
Because every single life is worthy of the absolute best care.
Right. And delivering that care requires deep artistic empathy, but it also demands rigorous scientific logic. You can't just have one without the other.
And what people really want in this world is quite simple, isn't it? They just want to be treated with dignity and respect.
Absolutely. They want care that is thoughtful and well-organized.
Yeah.
But above all, they want to physically see that their well-being matters to others.
And to deliver that kind of visible care, citizens of this world practice something really specific. They practice observation as an action.
Yes. Not just as a casual habit, but as a severe duty. They don't just glance at a room, they observe carefully.
They notice the tiny details that others completely miss.
Precisely. They notice if a cup of tea is the wrong temperature. They notice a tiny draft coming from under a door.
I gotta say, I need to push back on this a bit.
Okay, go for it.
Because you're painting this beautiful picture of deep human dignity, quiet rooms, and artistic empathy.
Huh.
But in this world, they rely incredibly heavily on counting things.
They do. Relentless counting.
And on statistics. Meticulous data collection. To me, that feels like a massive contradiction.
How so?
Well, usually we view data and statistics as the complete opposite of human warmth. Like numbers are sterile. When I think of being reduced to a number or a data point, it feels like my humanity is being stripped away.
That is the most important tension in this entire worldview. It really is. If you only look at the numbers, yeah, it feels cold.
Right. So how does a world that is so focused on human dignity rely so heavily on spreadsheets and ledgers?
Because to the people operating in this world, counting things is how you love people.
Wait, really? Counting is loving?
Yes, because data is the bridge between merely feeling bad for someone and actually helping them.
Oh, I see.
Think about it. Empathy without action is just shared suffering. If I sit next to you and cry because you're in pain, I'm feeling empathy, but I'm not stopping your pain.
So instead of just crying with me, you count things.
Exactly. I count how many times you cough. I track what time of day it happens, what the temperature of the room is. Because in this world, the core belief is that data turns concern into action.
Wow. Data turns concern into action. That makes a lot of sense.
It's how you arm your empathy with facts.
Oh,
Let me walk you through the life cycle of a solved problem in this world.
please do.
It always starts when someone observes carefully, they look without bias. Next, they collect accurate data.
Right, the relentless counting.
Yep. Then, they analyze the truth of that situation. Finally, they act to improve the care. And the ultimate result, lives are saved.
Let's ground that in an example. Imagine a scenario in this world where a system is just completely collapsing. Say, a medical facility where the mortality rate is a staggering 42%.
Oh, that's a perfect example. Nearly half the people walking through the doors are dying. It's a total collapse.
Right, and the prevailing assumption among the leadership is usually that these deaths are just tragic, but inevitable.
Right.
Like, they assume people are dying because their injuries are just too severe.
They think it's just the sad reality of the situation. But an assumption is an illusion. And in this worldview, you do not accept assumptions.
So they start the cycle, they observe, and they collect accurate data.
Exactly. They track every single death. And more importantly, they track the exact cause of every single death.
And when they do that, what does the data reveal that human intuition just completely missed?
The numbers cut right through the illusion. The data proves that the vast majority of those deaths aren't from unavoidable injuries at all.
Wait, really? What are they from?
Preventable, airborne, and waterborne diseases. Things caused by the environment. By filthy water, poor airflow, bad drainage.
So the environment itself was the killer, not the original injuries.
Precisely. And once the truth of the situation is analyzed, they act. They clean the spaces, fix the drainage, open the windows.
And that 42% mortality rate plummets.
It drops down to 2%.
That is just an unbelievable drop, simply from trusting the data over assumptions.
That is the power of the cycle. But, maintaining that kind of system, it requires more than just a few isolated moments of heroism.
Oh, definitely. Heroism isn't a sustainable infrastructure. To keep this world turning, it requires this invisible machinery, like a sustained, unglamorous discipline.
Unglamorous is the perfect word for it. There are strict pillars of operation that uphold this entire society.
What are those pillars?
Well, first, care is strictly guided by evidence. If an intervention doesn't work according to the data, it's thrown out, no matter how popular or traditional it is.
Which requires checking your ego at the door.
Oh, absolutely. Second, caregivers have to be highly trained and deeply supported. You can't demand excellence if you don't equip people to achieve it.
Right, that makes total sense. And the third pillar?
All reporting must be accurate and honest. Fudging numbers to make a facility look better is a profound moral failure here, because a lie in the data translates directly to a failure in care.
You know, it makes me marvel at how compassion is woven into everything in this world.
It really is everywhere.
It's not just safe for the bedside, it's in every single administrative and systemic decision. Like the person tracking inventory in a supply closet, they're performing an act of compassion.
Yes, because they're ensuring the caregiver has the exact clean supplies they need the moment they need them. People here work together with a completely unified purpose.
But what happens when they run into institutional apathy? I mean, collecting accurate data is great, but politicians and bureaucrats are notorious for ignoring dense ledgers of numbers.
That is the ultimate roadblock, isn't it? How do you make powerful people care?
Right. A spreadsheet doesn't magically mop a floor.
Well, this brings us to how citizens of this world actively advocate for better care. They know that a dense table of numbers won't change minds, so they invent completely new ways to visualize the truth.
Like what?
Have you ever heard of the Rose diagram or the Coxcomb diagram?
I have, yeah. But for the listener, what does that actually look like?
Imagine a circle divided into 12 slices, like a pie chart. Each slice represents a month of the year.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
But instead of the slices just being different sizes, they extend outward from the center based on the number of deaths. And crucially, they use colors to tell the story.
How do the colors work?
The red section represents deaths from unavoidable injuries. The black section is for other causes, but the blue section, which completely dwarfs the others, stretching way out from the center, represents deaths from preventable infectious diseases.
So at a single glance, you just see this massive, blooming shape of blue dominating the page.
Exactly. It looks almost like a jagged flower, a flower of death. And when politicians or leaders look at this graphic, they can't argue with it.
Because the visual impact is just undeniable.
Right. They can't hide behind the excuse that the numbers are too confusing. It proves the suffering is happening, it proves why it's happening, and it points directly to the solution.
They turn data into art, and they use it as a fiercely practical weapon against apathy.
That's exactly it. Injustice or suffering is met with one careful observation, leading to one brave decision, which results in one system made better for everyone.
Which brings us to the big idea here. If you synthesize this entire worldview into a single clarifying concept, what is it?
I would call it care based on truth.
Care based on truth.
Because in this world, you simply cannot fix what you refuse to see clearly.
Right. Illusions and wishful thinking are the enemies of care.
Exactly. When people truly understand the factual truth about conditions, they gain the power to change them. Better data directly leads to better care, and better care saves lives.
I love that.
Yeah.
It makes me think of an analogy. Imagine you were standing in a totally dark, incredibly cluttered room. It's a mess, and you need to clean it up.
Okay, sounds overwhelming already.
It is. And turning on a bright light in that room doesn't actually move any of the obstacles, right? The mess is still there.
True. The light doesn't do the heavy lifting.
But the light shows you exactly where to step. It shows you exactly what needs to be cleaned up first. In this world, truth is the illumination that makes real care possible.
That is a brilliant analogy. Empathy makes you want to clean the room, but the light tells you exactly where to start.
Right. And what's so powerful about this worldview is why it still matters to us today. Because it offers a timeless antidote to something I think we all struggle with.
The feeling of being completely overwhelmed by the suffering of the world.
Exactly. It's so easy to look at the news and just shut down. The problems seem too massive.
But stepping into this world proves that you don't need supernatural powers to change things.
You don't.
You just need the discipline to look closely, measure honestly, and act practically on what you find. It takes the monumental task of, saving the world, and it scales it down.
It makes it manageable. It tells you that just noticing a draft and fixing a window is a heroic act if it's based on the truth of what a person needs to heal.
Empathy without truth is blind, and truth without empathy is cold. But when you fuse them together, when you use truthful observation to illuminate human suffering, you create a system that actually heals.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it brings us right back to that quiet, meticulously organized room we stepped into at the very beginning.
It really changes how you view a simple room, doesn't it?
It does. We're looking at a world where empathy is profoundly practical, where environments heal us, and we're looking at the cold, hard truth is the ultimate foundation of caring for one another.
He gives physical spaces a kind of moral weight.
Exactly. So we'll leave you with a simple question to ponder. If you were to look at your own surroundings right now through this lens where careful observation is the highest form of care, what hidden truth would you notice first?